My name is Clay Williams, and this is People Talks, presented by Canal Pursuit Productions. The idea behind People Talks is that everyone has a story, and everyone's story has value. People Talks is a mixture of people with lived experience and people who work in health and fitness fields, one speaker each week. This week's speaker is Lisa Browning. In 2012, Lisa found herself in Guelph General Hospital under Form 1, commonly known as suicide watch, and suffering from PTSD as a result of an extremely mentally abusive relationship she'd been in for several years prior. With self-reflection and hard work, Lisa has come out of that experience stronger and more passionate than ever before about empowering others through telling their story and speaking their truth. Lisa founded 1000 Trees in 2010 with the publication of the first issue of a monthly online magazine of the same name. That magazine was discontinued in September 2020 after 10 years and 120 issues. Lisa is now focusing the majority of her time and energy on Roots and Wings, which focuses on mental health awareness and empowerment through creativity. No matter what she does, Lisa is inspired to make a difference in this world, to empower others and help them to realize their passion through telling their story and speaking their truth. She was honored as one of the Guelph Wise Women of Distinction in 2008, and I'm proud to call her my friend. Welcome to People Talks, Lisa.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, could you tell us about yourself? We'd like to hear your story.
You'd like to hear my story? Well, it's a good thing because I wrote it down.
Excellent.
I will just begin then.
All right.
There is a sign outside one of the factories close to my house displaying a quote by Helen Keller. Keep your face to the sunshine and you cannot see the shadows. I drive by that factory a lot and the sign always jumps out at me. At first, I thought it was because it resonated so well with me, excuse me, with my belief that we should always turn away from our darkness. After all, even Wayne Dyer said it, what we focus on expands. Recently, however, I've started to question that belief, especially because it has landed me in a period of what Thomas More so aptly refers to as a dark night of the soul on many occasions. I write in my journal at least once a day, so it was a fascinating exercise to look back and see that each and every one of those dark night of the soul experiences was preceded by a moment when I felt really good about myself. Life's turning out exactly as I hoped it would. Everything is working out. So what happened? One of my favorite quotes of all time is by Marianne Williamson. It starts out this way. And you may all know it already. We can all say it together. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? In the context of this quote, my relapses into dark nights of the soul started to make sense. Indeed, who was I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, or fabulous? Toxic shame is a concept I first came to understand many years ago after reading John Bradshaw's book, Healing the Shame That Binds Us. Bradshaw states that toxic shame creates beliefs that one's true self is defective and flawed, which then creates a false sense that one as a person, as a human being, is also defective. And of course, if one is defective, one must hide and certainly not be out in the public being praised or in the spotlight being praised. When I was a baby, I cried a lot. I was born in 1960, but don't tell anybody. And the concept
it was a good year.
It was a good year. And the concept of scheduled feeding had just been introduced as preferable to feeding on demand. My mother's decision to follow her doctor's advice and incorporate this method into her care of me resulted in my frequently being hungry. And because I cried as a result of that hunger, my mother was often frustrated. More often than not, when my 11-year-old sister returned home from school each day, my mother would thrust me into her arms saying, "Take her, I can't stand it anymore." So through no fault of my mother's, no real fault of my mother's, I was deprived of two of the fundamental needs of a newborn, the safety and security of being loved and held, and the safety and security of being fed when hungry. Instead, I was inadvertently treated as a nuisance and a burden, and I learned toxic shame. Growing up in a family of 5 with an 11-year age difference between me and my sister and 15 years between me and my brother, I was often the forgotten one. When I was very little, my family would gather for Sunday dinner around our large formal dining room table. Because I was so small in size and in voice, I was often unheard at that table of adults and teenagers. When dinner was finished, but conversation still continued, I would usually crawl under the dining room table, hoping against all hope that someone would notice that I was missing. No one ever did. And I learned that I was not important. We all have core beliefs. We all have core messages and beliefs. Sometimes we are aware of them, but sometimes we are not. My core belief, as stated, was that I was not important, not worthy of love or attention. In addition to that, I inherited the following 4 beliefs from my mother. You are not on this earth to be happy. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong. Don't expect anything, then you won't be disappointed. And you're going to cry before you go to sleep. This one was said if I was playing or laughing too much. And it went on from there. In kindergarten, we were asked to do a painting of a tree. I remember my painting to this day. I remember the thick blue line at the top of the page, which was the sky, and an equally thick green line at the bottom, which was the ground. In the white space in the middle of the paper was my tree, with its brown trunk and a green circle on top, which of course was supposed to be the leaves. No, no, my teacher exclaimed in front of the entire class, that's not how you draw a tree. If I had that picture right now, it would be framed in my living room. In grade 1, I was chastised by my teacher for holding the scissors the wrong way and sucking on my hair. In grade 3, I was recruited to lunchtime detention because I was talking in line, waiting for the entry bell to ring. I didn't show up for that detention, and I went through the remainder of the school year in terror, wondering when Mrs. Freeman would track me down and punish me further for failing to serve my time. By grade 4, my seat, I won't go year by year. Get up to grade 9. No. By grade 4, my deep-seated sense of shame was fully a part of my psyche, and yet I still displayed sporadic attempts at bravery, however short-lived. The day I proudly wore fluorescent blue nail polish, like all the other girls were doing, but scratched it off each nail when I was teased by a couple of classmates intent on embarrassing me, was the day I surrendered my own sense of self to the more worthy opinions of my peers. I continued through public school with the subconscious belief that my only worth lay in my accomplishments. I was an A student, always the first to turn in assignments, and never coming to school without all homework being completed, neatly and with headings underlined with ruler straight colored lines, a double line for the title and a single line for the date. High school was more of the same. I was an honor student and a perfectionist, because I still believed that my only worth lay in my accomplishments, not in who I was as a person. In first-year university, I met the first in a series of abusive partners. He was athletic, popular, and incredibly good-looking. I never understood why he chose to be with me. The longer we stayed together, the more emotionally distant he became. He made it abundantly clear that he didn't want me around. And the more he showed me how little I meant to him, the more desperately I tried to prove my worth. After that relationship ended, I had several other unhealthy and unfulfilling relationships, culminating in an incredibly abusive relationship, which landed me in the hospital under suicide watch and suffering from PTSD, as you mentioned. It took a long time, almost 10 years in fact, to recover from that trauma. There was one problem, however. I put all the blame on the relationship and neglected to look at the underlying cause of my being in that relationship in the first place. Little did I know, then anyway, that all of these incidents dating back to my infancy were reinforcing my belief that I was not good enough. We get what we think we deserve, whether we are aware of what we're thinking or not. In her book entitled Living in the Light, Shakti Gawain talks a lot about shadow work, which refers to the task of becoming aware of the parts of ourselves that we have denied or repressed because we feel they are unacceptable. Because I inherently believed that I was flawed and unimportant and had believed this for all of my life, I became uncomfortable when my life was going well. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong. In order to stay true to this deep-seated belief, I found ways to self-destruct in the midst of any success, even if I didn't realize consciously that I was doing so. If our core beliefs are negative and do not serve us well, we often blame our parents. And while usually these beliefs and feelings are first instilled in us by those who raised us, blame is really not the right word. Our parents too have their story. As stated by Tara Brock in her book, Radical Acceptance, our imperfect parents had imperfect parents of their own. I never knew my mother's mother because she died before I was born, but I remember being told the story of my mother frequently coming home as a child in public school to find her own mother in a darkened living room with the curtains drawn, staring into nothingness. Not an environment conducive to positivity, that's for sure. Each of us is broken in one way or another. Woundology is a concept derived by Carolyn Mace, and she talks about it extensively in her book, Why People Don't Heal and How They Can. The premise is that some people don't heal because they've made an identity out of their woundedness. They like the attention it gets them, and they don't want to give that up. But I believe that this concept has been misconstrued, and many mistakenly believe it to mean that we are not to look at our woundedness or the trauma that caused it. Another fear is that of imposter syndrome, which refers to our internal experience of believing that we are not as competent as others perceive us to be. If they only knew who I really am. Ever since I started 1,000 Trees in 2010, I have been on a mission to help empower others through the telling of their stories and speaking their truth, And I discovered something fascinating. When we follow our passion, everything miraculously, I'm going to start that one all over again.
Okay.
Ever since I first started 1,000 Trees in 2010, I have been on a mission to help empower others through telling their stories and speaking their truth. And I discovered something fascinating. When we follow our passion, everything miraculously falls into place. We meet the people we're meant to meet when we're meant to meet them. Opportunities come our way that are directly in line with that passion. But telling our stories and speaking our truth includes the whole story, the whole truth, not just the user-friendly, comfortable pieces. When we do this, we can change not only ourselves, but we can change the world. As stated by Debbie Ford in her book, The Secret of the Shadow, all of our pain has a purpose. It is here to teach us, guide us, and give us the wisdom we need to deliver our gifts to the world. Most of us use our traumas and our wounds to beat ourselves up, to stay stuck, and to keep ourselves small. But when our pain and disappointment are examined and used as learning tools, they impart sacred life lessons that can be taught to us only in this way. Sharing our stories, ourselves, our success, quote unquote, is the name of a series of anthologies of empowerment stories that I published through my company. I published the first volume in 2013. It was an incredible experience. In that volume, 24 courageous women shared their stories of pain, struggle, and courage, healing, hope, and vision, whatever it was that guided them on their individual journeys to healing and wholeness. Most of these women were from Ontario, but others were from Nova Scotia, British Columbia, California, Arizona, as well as some from England and Australia. I received a lot of feedback from those women, all expressing gratitude for the opportunity to share their story, no matter how difficult. I'd like to read one particular testimonial that speaks loudly to my heart and soul. This is from somebody that wrote in that book. I did not know her before, from Arizona. On January 13th, January 19th, 2013, you read a post I had made on Cheryl Richardson's Facebook page and felt a connection. Rather than ignore it, you reached out to me. You made a connection. You said that my words resonated with you, and in that instant, by that simple action, I felt empowered and my story validated. At that particular moment in my life, having my thoughts and feelings validated was water in an oasis, a life jacket in a turbulent sea. Your invitation to participate in sharing turned my tide. It gave me something to concentrate on, something positive in a negative world. It gave me hope. I had no confidence in myself, but you did. You allowed me a forum to live a lifelong dream. You nurtured me to take the first step, to become a more authentic and better me. Most importantly, you allowed me to be able to live the dream at my ability. There were no demands, no rules, no criticism, no judgment. Just give me your best work and be your most authentic self. Just be you. That's enough. In a world where everyone has an angle, a scheme, an agenda, you did not. You reached out to another soul who was hurting. You extended a hand and in one simple act threw out a lifeline to a drowning soul. The book, that was just gravy, something additional to an already human experience. Why is this so important to me? Because a stranger reached out to me, helped me look at myself and reflect it back to the world. It wasn't the easiest thing I have ever done, but it was by far one of the best things I have ever done. It made me stop and take inventory of what I wanted and what I didn't. It gave me strength and confidence in myself. How do I see it, this work you do? Your work is important, but it isn't work as much as it is a calling. It's a calling to bring together the power, the strength, and the healing of others so that they can be all that they can be. You yourself struggle deeply with your own demons and issues, but gain strength by and through the helping of others. And in that struggle, you find yourself and your purpose. That's pretty darn inspiring and damn powerful. You do good things. Those things change the world. Yours are not the actions of loud tumbling waves that crash and recede with each surge. They are the quiet actions of a single stone thrown into a pond that creates a soft ripple effect. Each ring travels outward, reaching further and further. Forever taking with it the energy that probably audacious when I'm feeling kind of down. Anyway. In the words of Tara Brock, realizing the truth of belonging and that we are all suffering and awakening together on the path is the most powerful antidote to personal feelings of unworthiness. This concept is expanded on by Kristen Neff, co-founder of the Center for Mindful Self-Compassion, when she says, we can embrace both the joy and the sorrow of being human, and by doing so, we can transform our lives. You can tell that I'm a writer and a publisher just by the number of quotes I refer to.
Yeah, references and cross-references.
Books and more books. You can never have too many books. Just one more. In her book entitled How the Light Gets In, about writing as a spiritual practice, Pat Schneider states, daring to be seen, daring to let the truth of the human condition be made visible by our telling, whether that telling be in words or in some other form of witness, splits open the world, cracks it, and that's how the light gets in. Sure, she was borrowing from that wonderful poem by Leonard Cohen, which can't be quoted enough, in my opinion. So to close, I do believe that we have to guard against the victim mentality if it results in our staying stuck in our past trauma and pain. But I also believe that we have to face our darkness, every bit of it, in order to see our light. It is then that we will be able to let it all go and turn to the light of a glorious new future.
Wow. Wow, thank you.
You're welcome.
That was, you've been on an amazing journey. And honestly, this is the first time I've heard it all in one place. I've known you now for 5 years, maybe.
At least, yeah, about that.
Yeah, and I've heard little pieces here and there, but yeah, that's it's. I'm honored to know you, and considering what you're doing now from where you have been, you're in an amazing place.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
yeah.
I feel that.
My friendship with you is one of the has been one of the building blocks of what is now People Talks and Canal Pursuit Productions. The the focus on yeah, mental health, positive thinking, and really the value of sharing your story. I'm not sure if I told you that I think I approached you last fall and kind of had this idea of this thing, and it was this really really unclear idea of what was what eventually became what's now People Talks. But I was watching, I'm going to do another name dropping thing. I was watching something instead of reading something, so I watch things. You read things. Michelle Obama's book launch video, Becoming, I think was the title of it. And very close to the end of it, she says, and I rewind it and watched it like 5 times, people have to know, or people have to understand that their story has value. And I paused and I rewound it and played it again. Yeah, she actually said that. That's yeah, you and I have been talking about that for years now, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's true, you know, everybody that's written in any of the sharing anthologies, they say the same thing. I mean, the experience of telling their story is powerful, but then anybody that's read those stories, it's equally as powerful. So it's a double-edged sword, so to speak.
Yeah, not quite the sword of Damocles. That's a different thing. So if you're okay with it, I'm going to ask you some personal questions. So I'm curious. Sure. Your bio kind of starts out in kind of late in your story, admitted to hospital in 2012 on suicide watch. Were you still sort of in that last relationship, or had you been out of it for a while, or what did that look like?
I was just in the process of moving. So
okay.
The house had been packed up, the house had been sold, so it was very new, very young.
Yeah, okay.
Like we were still in the same house at that time, living separate quarters, of course, but right. Still in the same house. So yeah, it was, I was not in a good place.
Was that, so one of the questions I've asked a few people on People Talks is the time between when they knew they had a mental health issue and until the time that they got a formal diagnosis. Was that all happening around the same time, or did you know that you were emotionally struggling before you ended up in hospital with PTSD?
I was in denial, which a lot of times that's what happens, right? You escape, you don't want to face it, so you do whatever you can to escape it. I mean, I knew I wasn't happy. I knew the relationship was horrid and I was being mistreated and all that. So to clarify, this was an emotionally abusive relationship. It wasn't a physical one. Sometimes I find that's even more difficult because am I being abused or am I just crazy? Whereas when you're being hit and you have bruises, yes, I'm definitely abused. So I knew that was, I mean, I was just a mess, but I don't think I realized the extent of it until the morning when I woke up. I happened to luckily be at my brother's, and I was actually talking to a girlfriend might have been on Facebook, I can't remember, and just basically said to her, I don't want to live anymore. So then she called my brother, and that's when they took me to the hospital. And then I went, oh, this is not good. Yeah.
There's something bad going on there.
There's something bad going on here. Yeah.
Something I've asked a few people as well, and it's an open question, and you can choose not to answer, and I can edit it out if you want.
Oh, no pressure.
What do you think about meds for mental health issues? Yeah, I'll leave it at that, simple, wide open.
That's an interesting question, because I try in any area of my life to stay away from pharmaceutical drugs. I'm certainly not against it. I think a lot of people need them for sure. Mm-hmm. Through all of this, I was not on any medication. I don't think I was on. Oh no, I was. I was on some medication for a bit there after I was the doctor wanted to admit me into Homewood, which is our local psych hospital here, world-renowned psych hospital. And I didn't go because I said, I can't, I have to go to work. But
work is important.
Well, even then, no, we're not going to take care of ourselves. We have to go to work. But I did go as an outpatient for 6 months, and that was an intensive program. And they did have me on medication then. Medication doesn't sit well with me personally, not from a moral standpoint, from a physical standpoint. I have trouble with a lot of meds.
Okay. So
I tend not to go that route, but I know that they're lifesavers for people as well.
Yeah, for sure. So with Roots and Wings, what's going on with Roots and Wings? Didn't talk about that very much.
I didn't, did I?
No, not yet.
That's because it's just kind of being built. It's like, as I mentioned in talking earlier, following your passion, things kind of fall into place. So I'm just going slowly on that. I mean, I know what I want to do with it, I think, but I'm not exactly sure what it's going to look like yet, other than the fact that I want it to be a forum to raise awareness and also to empower other people, again, through telling stories, or in this case, through artwork or photography or whatever they want. So it's coming along slowly, but I'm trying not to stress myself out about it, because I figure it's going to become what it's meant to become.
Yeah, and you mentioned Daniela is going to be involved again, or is.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exciting.
So she's she reached out to me. I think I connected with her through a mental health group on Facebook here in Guelph, which she was involved in. I didn't realize that at the time because we had lost touch a little bit. And somebody else had said to me, you need to talk to Danielle Betts. She would be great for Roots and Wings. I thought, I know Danielle Betts really well.
Nice.
So, yeah, she's very excited to be taking on a leadership role. I said to her, you can pretty much do what you want to do. I'm giving you the forum to do it. Just run it by me first. So,
nice.
So that's happening.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is at the end of this, the credits which follow in a few minutes, I'll put a link or put the text up. I don't know if you can click on a link in a video. You probably can. I can't figure out how to do that. I'll put the text up so people can find Roots and Wings.
Okay, great.
All right. And
if you want to put my main website as well, there's links to everything there, the sharing anthologies and that sort of thing, if people are interested in doing that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I think I'm out of questions. Did you have anything else you wanted to cover or say before we closed off?
I don't think so. I mean, other than I'm doing a couple of special edition anthologies, but one of which is about pets and mental health, how pets and animals help our mental health, which we're looking for writers for that. So that's kind of cool. And there's information about that on my sharing website.
Oh, okay, awesome. Yeah, for the record, for those who are listening and don't know, I think I've been a contributor for 2 of the anthologies that you've put together over the years, right? So
you have.
Yeah, so I'm not in the pets and mental health one, so it's probably going to be a good one.
There's still self-deprecating. I don't know.
There's that self-deprecating thing again. Anyway, yeah, that sounds awesome. include information about that as well. I mean, it's on I'll include the specific way to get there for that information.
Okay,
I remember
that's
seeing
terrific. Thank you.
a post on Facebook with a little poster on it. So
Yeah,
you're good at
wonderful.
posters. Thank you.
What's that?
You're good at posters. Thank you. All right. Thanks for as the last word. Thank you very much for taking the time and sharing your story. And as we've talked about, there's a lot of value in that. And I hope you've enjoyed your time. I haven't asked anything too crazy or too prying.
I was worried.
I think we came out okay. All right.
Yeah, thank you. No, it was great. I'm glad to have done this. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. And
Thank you for asking.
cut.